My name is Chiko Negbe, and it's my honor and privilege to be your moderator for this session. Today, we shall be discussing digital transformation and how we can leverage this to drive up our market share and maintain productivity during these tough times. With me on the panel today are two brilliant minds who will discuss business pivoting strategies and the importance of digital transformation and the opportunities and avenues within the market to explore. Before we proceed with the session, I'd like to read out the rules and format of this assembly. Each speaker would have 15 to 20 minutes to present their topic. After both presentations, we'll have an interactive Q&A session. All attendees will be muted on entry and only be unmuted to ask questions. Please type your questions in the chat window and the moderator will call up attendees to ask their questions on a first come, first served basis. The chat function will be used to ask questions during the Q&A session. To effectively manage this, you would only be able to direct your questions to the host. After the Q&A session, the function will be open to discussions across all attendees. If you're unable to answer any of your questions during the meeting, we'll address this within the general WhatsApp group afterwards. Now that we've taken care of the serious stuff, let's get down to business. Over the last few months, the pandemic caused by COVID-19 has thrown the whole world into disarray. Countries have closed borders and reduced many economic activities by imposing quarantines and requiring non-essential workers to stay at home. Organizations and workers in most industries have had to quickly adapt to one of the most challenging and sudden waves of disruptions over the last 100 years. Although the current human toll and economic impact of this pandemic have been staggering, the advancements in technology and science have helped ease the initially projected statistics. Using technology and science, hundreds of and millions of people in affected countries remain connected, productive, and healthy. The 97 set isn't an exception either. We're using technology in innovative ways to remain connected. Instead of the usual collision, we now have the assembly. The necessity to stay in touch, rub minds, and share ideas give rise to these assembly sessions, the brainchild of one of our very own, Ifeanyi Mba. We've also seen the emergence of Elizabeth Dominick's Skills to Money course, Jideofor Agbo's online consultation initiative, Uju Agbasi's adoption of digital marketing for her Chick Plus range, Tintin's cloud-based active 360 hotel management, and Ime's Eat Green Delicious range, to name a few. These are all examples of the growing recognition of the need to digitally transform the way we do business. For the better part of a decade, digital transformation has been the core driver of organizational change. The transition from legacy IT to cloud computing, the expansion of retail and banking into the mobile space, the rise of machine learning, etc., are all signs of the need for digital transformation. It is therefore not surprising that these technologies have enabled businesses, governments, healthcare systems, students, and workers to adapt to the disruption caused by the pandemic. Every single one of these technologies that we now depend on is a function of decades of investment in research and development and a clear vision in leadership to pursue digital mobility and adaptation. What we have seen recently is that organizations further along the digital transformation journey were able to adapt and handle the impact of the pandemic better than those that are just starting or haven't even adopted these ideas. Investing in digital technology isn't cheap either. It requires upskilling your staff, training, and various other expenditures. Still, the potential gains are substantial, and one could argue now essential. To help us understand how to identify market opportunities and adapt our strategy to the changing times without changing our business vision, I would like to call on our first speaker, Ndifreke Nkosi. Ndifreke is a seasoned business strategist with over 10 years experience streamlining and making public and private enterprises more efficient and robust. Ndifreke.
Thank you, Chikonu. Good evening, everyone. Such a pleasure to be here. Thank you to the planning committee for putting this together and for the opportunity. Can I start to share my screen? Okay. So quickly, who's Ndifreke Nkose? So aside from the fact that I'm a strategy professional, I'm a theater enthusiast, live plays, musicals, even the opera, all join. I'm also a foodie. I like to call myself an eternal optimist. In local parlors, I would say that I'm a diehard. My professional background, I currently do strategy at InterSwitch Group, where I support InterSwitch, articulate where and how it will win within its markets. I've been doing this for over 13 years now, having started PricewaterhouseCoopers, where I successfully managed and delivered several strategy projects within the public and private sector. Outside the work environment, I also partner with some foundations and NGOs where I volunteer as a guest facilitator and I support development of small businesses and entrepreneurs within those networks. So just talking about strategic pivoting today, I want to do this twofold. So I like to start by talking about strategy development because I feel that before you can even think of pivoting, you must have something in place. So what I'm going to do is run through the logic behind strategy development and strategic pivoting. I've taken away the technicalities, the buzzwords. I'm going to use very simple language and very simple examples so as to bring this home. So usually when I'm having conversation with people on strategy and I ask them what is strategy, it's almost like a knee-jerk response where people say that strategy is all about planning. But I like to say strategy is about making choices, about what to do and what not to do. And I typically tell a lot of small businesses and entrepreneurs that you're not in business for the sake of being in business, you're in business to win. So that process of strategy development will help you win within your marketplace. And this is about beating competition. It will help you achieve your desired intent, but most importantly, it will help you deliver value to your customers, to your employees, to your stakeholders. So what does this entail? I like to break these concepts into 3 components. I call them where to play, how to play or how to win, and what is required to win. Now, these things don't happen in isolation. It's not 1, 2, and 3 happening one after the other. They happen concurrently. So as you define where to play, and I will shed more light on that, you would need to consider what is required to win. You also need to consider how you want to play. So before you even start to make choices around where to play, how to play or win, and what is required to win, you have to understand the world around you. And one of the critical reasons for understanding the world around you is to be able to identify where the opportunities are and where the risks are. So you want to look at your external environment. For example, if you look at Nigeria, you want to understand the political factors in place that can impact businesses. I remember the general election where you had the former president, Jonathan, and the current president, as candidates. I was still with PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I had clients, external clients outside of Nigeria who wanted to do business in Nigeria. None of them made a move. They needed to understand that we had a stable political environment before they came in. You want to understand the state of the economy. You want to understand the social factors, the technology factors that can impact businesses within the environment. You even want to understand the legal system. So if you do business with someone and you have a contract, can you enforce that contract if need be? You also want to look at the industry you want to play in. What are the positive factors that are impacting businesses within that industry or market? Those are things I call enablers. What are the negative factors that are impacting these businesses? Those are challenges. Who are the winners? Who are the losers? Why are they winning? Why are they losing? Now, once you have clarity on where the opportunities are and where the risks are, then you want to start making choices as to where to play, how to play a win, and what is required to win. So when we talk about where to play, right, where to play is really you making choices about where to compete and where not to compete. And one of the critical components here is your geography, your location. So there are businesses that will say to you, I'm in VI and VI only, right? There is a game plan or a strategy behind that. Some will tell you, I'm nationwide. Others will tell you, like the technology business I work in, will say we're Africa focused. We want to solve problems, not just in Nigeria, but across the rest of Africa. Another critical component in this, where you make choice, is your consumer segment or your customer segment. And I will share with you some basic examples to bring this home. Some will say, I want to serve women only, right? Some will say, I want to serve men within a certain age range. Other considerations include your distribution channel. It could be online. It could be a combination of physical locations as well as online. And then you could also be selective in terms of the products and services you offer to your customers. So in considering, once you're clear, while you're considering the choices around where you want to play, you should start thinking of your play model. I call it your play option, how you deliver value to your market. So you find that in some businesses, some people may decide, I want to be a premium player, right? A good example would be stores like Selfridges in the UK, right? Harrods. I want to be a premium player. They understand the customer segments they go after. There's clarity. Now, others may say, I want to be a mass market provider. I want to be a low-cost provider like Asda, like Walmart. There's clarity. And usually what happens is when you're very clear about how you deliver value, your chances of winning start to increase significantly. Now, I'll come back to this example so as to bring it all home. Now, once you start to make your choices in terms of how you want to deliver value or how you want to play, another critical consideration is the competencies required. Now, sometimes I use the word capabilities, but it literally means the strengths that you need to deliver that value that you've chosen or that model that you've chosen, you know, to deliver value to that choice you've made on the model through which you deliver value. Now, it's okay to have these competencies and strengths, right? But you get real value from them when they combine together to form a system. So each of those strengths or competencies reinforce each other and they come together to form a system that gives you some sort of strong advantage. And you can see that in companies like Coca-Cola, for example. So if I use Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola is so good in terms of how it does market insights, right? It understands its customers up to the man that uses its products. And not just that, it tracks competition. Every drink that is released, everything that is happening within the market, it tracks it because Coca-Cola has said in their vision that they want to be number one when it comes to that drink space. Now, all of that information, they feed it into the innovation system. So for those in Nigeria, you would see that the most popular drink within the market or where you go at is Chapman. I don't think there's anybody in Nigeria that does not know Chapman, does not drink Chapman. In fact, it's just the easiest thing to order for. And from the latest releases, you see them actually move in the Nigerian markets to can those things. So they now have the Chapman offering. They have the Mojito, the mocktail offerings, right? And I think we're all familiar with the distribution network and supply chain management. They also have a strong brand. All of this come together to give them that strong competitive edge within the markets. You see the same with a country, it's a company like Amazon. Okay, so just going back to the slide, if you are very clear, remember that these choices happen concurrently as to where and where not to compete, as to how you want to deliver value, and those strengths and competencies that will help you deliver this value. the level of clarity and coherence you have as regards your strategy is so strong that it increases significantly your likelihood for success. So I would use a basic example in the Nigerian market. This is within the laundry space. So I have two play options here, right? A mass market provider and a premium player. So a good example of this premium player is Garment Care. So they've chosen their play model, right? They want to deliver service, good quality service at a good price, right? And so they say to themselves that to be a premium player, I don't want to offer basic dry cleaning and laundry services. I want to offer specialized services. And in their brand material, they talk about how they would care for your fabric. Now, just thinking about their target customers, it has to be middle or high income earners, people who have dealt with all their basic needs, who perhaps have those high quality designer outfits, things that are heavily embroidered with feathers, with beads, all of those things that require those specialized services. So those middle and high income earners, remember what I said, where to play. They've targeted their customer segment or consumer segment. This guy stay in the high end neighborhoods in Lagos. So Garment Care is located in VI, they're located in Lekki, they're located in GRA Ikeja, very specific, right? And they have varied value-added services that feed this customer segments. So I always say to people that I'm sure a lot of those houses in the high-end neighborhoods have washing machines. So they're not asking for basic services, they want the specialized offerings, right? Now, when you think about the competencies required, quality control is a major one for them. So you can imagine them receiving outfits worth millions of naira, maybe even dollars, and then going to the customer to say the outfit is missing or the outfit is ruined. You know, so I use them on and off, and I realized that they have literally zero margin for error. Customer service and support is also very strong. As soon as you enter their space, there's someone to attend to you. There are people that can follow up with you. There's a problem, and they adjust their services based on the problems you're having. So they give you a time, and they miss that time, they immediately offer to deliver to you. So they have cars, they have buses that can allow them to deliver on that promise. So even though there's a risk of high cost in terms of equipment and operations, you know, it doesn't matter to them because they can pass it on to these customers who can pay their premium prices. And on the other hand, same space, same industry, there's another provider who has decided, you know what, I want to focus on low to middle income earners. Right? Where this guy is located, they're located in the high density locations in Lagos, in universities and apartment blocks. So you have EZ Wash and Dry, and you find them in Ikota, in Lukweju, they're in Lekki, further down Lekki, Yaba, they're in Osapa. And if you think about a young professional who's just gotten his first job, the least thing on his list of things is a washing machine, you know, so that's not his priority in any way, which means that this mass market provider or laundromat in quotes will target him to say, you know, come in and we'll offer you wash and dry services, self-service, right? So customer service and support may not be as high, or they may be creative. So I know these guys, for example, they have online channels through which they engage their customers. You find that value-added services for them is what a premium player like Garment Care will consider to be basic. So ironing is value-added for them. Dry cleaning is value-added. That's basic services for a premium player. So you can see that these guys are both in the same space, but they have chosen different ways to deliver value. It has impacted where they want to play, where they're located, the consumer segments they're targeting, as well as the competencies they've built internally to deliver the service. Now, ANZ, for example, it would be a terrible shame for them if people, and I hear that there are crowds there. Unfortunately, with COVID-19, I've not been able to see the place, right? I hear that the crowds usually do come in there, and it would be such a shame for them if people come in and then their machines are down. So that competency around maintenance, around repairs, around operational efficiency is critical for them, because they want to deliver the services at the least cost possible so that they can have good returns for themselves. Now, that quality control that a premium player is concerned about, they're not necessarily concerned about it. So I do know that they allow some errors. There's some mix-up that happens. In the larger scheme of things, is minimal, but because that's kind of even a core, I can't even imagine a premium customer being able to handle that. So you can see that these are two different people, same space, different ways of delivering value to their markets, very clear. And I realized that anybody else within this market space who's not as clear as these two people would tend to struggle. And that's what strategy ensures. It ensures that you're very clear about these choices, and as much clarity and coherence you can bring within your business, it increases your likelihood of success. So even though you have a clear strategy, you're operating in your business environment, anything can happen. So in today's world that's very dynamic, with the kind of technology changes that occur in seconds, literally, any kind of disruption can happen within your markets. It could be that technology has enhanced and allowed people come up with a different way to engage with your typical customers. It could be the current situation we're in, COVID, that has changed your standard or traditional interactions with your customers. Now, what happens is your ability to be flexible enough to pivot towards the opportunities is critical. And what does pivot mean? Pivot means just shifting. So strategic pivot ensures that you can start to turn your business towards where the opportunities are. Now, to do that, I like to use this framework that I have in front of you, 4 steps that ensures that you define the job to be done, the experiences, the processes, and the brand. So even though this is a good framework for pivoting, I also like to use this as a good framework for innovation. Now, what is job to be done? Job to be done is literally just helping you define the problem that you're solving. So I was listening to Chikone talk about using technology, and for me, the critical thing is always understanding the problem you're trying to solve for the customer, the friction you're trying to resolve within the market. Once you're clear about that, another critical step is even understanding the value of the pie. There's some problems that you can solve once. So I remember this group of people who had come together to chase a business opportunity. They saw a problem quite all right, and they were going to solve the problem, which was brilliant. But the problem was going to be solved in a way that I, the customer, will pay for it only once. Once I do that and pay once, that's it. There's no repeat custom. There's nothing that allows me to come back again. And they started to struggle with their business model because they hadn't thought about the possibilities for monetization early enough, right? So once you're clear about the problem you're solving, once you understand the value of that pie, you start to think about the experiences that I need as the customer. Once you're clear about this, you can then organize yourself internally to deliver to me these experiences, to help me resolve this problem, and then you can sell yourself accordingly. So anytime I have the problem or think about the problem, I come to you. So I explained this in a bit. What is job to be done? So like I said earlier, the job to be done is really a problem that you're solving for somebody. So take, for example, a typical TV station, right? So maybe CNN or channels. You can say, I'm a TV station, I deliver news to the people. Now, what is going to happen over time is your viewership will reduce, whether you like it or not. So for someone like myself, I honestly think some days I find it difficult to sit in front of the TV to say I'm catching 7 o'clock or 10 p.m. news, right? But what is the critical thing that I need? I want to stay informed, and I want to stay informed on the go. So once an organization, a news agency understands that I want to stay informed and I want to stay informed on the go, it can tweak its products and services, to solve that problem for me. And the way it solves that problem depends on the kind of experiences that I need. So because I want to stay informed, I want to stay informed on the go. It was really good or exciting for me when I saw the CNN app. So all I did was download it, and that's where I catch up on CNN. Now for channels, at 7 p.m. when they do 7 p.m. news, sometimes I'm in the office. Well, I'm ashamed to say that sometimes when they do 10 p.m. news, I'm in the office. Sometimes, right? So I find that the best way I catch up on news or to stay informed is I go on Twitter. So if channels or CNN didn't think about my problem, which was to stay informed, they probably won't have been able to shift from the typical model that they started out with to give me an app to go on social media. Sometimes I catch up on channels on YouTube. So you find that pivoting sometimes, it's not always about shifting the entire company. It could be changing a part of the business to capture a new customer segment. It could be changing the business to get a new revenue line, or it could be using technology to cut costs, to improve quality, or to do things differently. So the critical statement or the critical thing that needs to happen is understanding the problem to be solved. So in order to identify those problems, there's simple questions you can ask yourself. Why do you do what you do? Why do people buy your products? Why do they not buy your products? Why do they no longer buy your products, right? What are those inconvenient workarounds that people are experiencing that impairs the ability to utilize your products? So I like to use a simple example that I experienced in the course of COVID-19 lockdown. So before COVID-19 lockdown, right, I would mix up a series of activities so as to find that balance that I want so that I'm not consumed with work, right? So I had certain social engagements I will attend. I had certain passions or interests that I will pursue. So now this is a lockdown, and the danger with working from home during the lockdown is there's no time limit. So I find sometimes I'm having midnight meetings, with my team. And this is not me forcing my team, it's my team holding me hostage, right? I'm having late night meetings with management. Sometimes they set up meetings on Saturdays and Sundays. So I find that I had to force in certain interests. So one of the interests, remember I'm a foodie, was around cooking. Now there was this lady I found on Instagram. Pre-COVID, she would sell the products. So she did banana bread, she had ching ching, she had parfait, she had cookies. Now with COVID-19, in a lot of companies, people were laid off. In some other companies, they reduced salaries significantly. So when I look at the priority of things that I want, cookie is not on my priority list. I want to eat basic foods first. Parfait or banana bread, it's not on my list. So this lady just tweaked her business model a bit. She started teaching or training how to make these things. Now to do this, she, because I saw her advert on Instagram and then I DM'd her. She sat down and created videos on how to, because that was critical. People wanted to understand what ingredients do I need to make banana bread, then how to make banana bread. She did videos, she didn't even use her face, right? So you could see her in these videos with all the ingredients, showing the steps and everything, put the videos together, put together an ebook. She created a WhatsApp group. She charged 1,000 Naira per person, which was ridiculous and affordable for a lot of people. And once you pay the money, she puts you in the WhatsApp group, throws out the videos, throws out the ebook, puts a set of instructions, and then you're supposed to practice. Now, what started happening in that group was people were not just practicing. Somebody practiced and immediately started marketing his product. Like, I was amazed. And honestly, I would have been lazy about it. But by the time I saw everybody posting their pictures, I was like, I can't carry last inside this group. I went out, bought my ingredients, made my banana bread, posted it online. And what happened was that group grew beyond just learning. People were asking questions. Please, what do I use in place of butter? Where did you get raisins from? People started sharing knowledge. You know, imagine she could have just been charging 100 naira per week for having people interact within the group. And for her, pivoting became necessary. She utilized technology, but she utilized it in the most basic way. She used WhatsApp. There wasn't any significant investment on her part. She could do the videos easily on her phone. And she was able to reach, I think that group I was in was about 100 people. And so I noticed that she does that every month. Now within the group, people started posting their cookies pictures. And so in my head, I said, it's just 1,000 naira. I'll pay for the next cookie class, right? Somebody put parfait pictures. And then someone else was like, oh, I need to register for your parfait course. It was amazing. And for her, that pivoting was a shift in revenue model. It was almost like a new customer segment. Chicken, I can see you. Am I running out of time?
No, carry on.
A new customer segment. And best of all, she used technology. So the problem she was solving was, one, I wanted to deepen my expertise and knowledge. Two, I needed something to occupy myself because I couldn't do the normal physical activities or social engagements that I would do if there was no lockdown. And she found a way to do that because within the group, there was a lot of conversation, there was a lot of sharing of knowledge, you know. For me, it was a good example of someone pivoting out of her traditional products and services. Because like I said, I'm not buying cookies when I've not bought rice, right? And so if you can ask yourself these questions, why do people buy your products? Now, there's so many examples. Hopefully they'll come up during the Q&A, right? Now, in terms of your processes, once you understand the problem you're solving, once you understand the experiences people want, then you can now align yourself internally to deliver that service. Now, for people who have gone online, the internal processes will change. So for her, for example, she must have created processes to deliver goods and services to people. Now she will create processes to deliver online trainings to people. So she probably would be doing more digital marketing. And that's how I found her. I found her on Instagram, right? She'll probably be doing more digital marketing. Thankfully, with WhatsApp, it's just a video once. But she may need to have a schedule that allows her to deliver those services every month when due, right? And so these are the basic things that people can go through when they want to innovate, when they want to pivot. So technology becomes an enabler. Another good example I would use is a construction company, and this one I'm using because technology was not the enabler, but they pivoted. So these guys were building condos, and they're targeted retirees and divorcees. So they knew that they were targeting people who had big houses, or for one reason or the other, like they had retired, they had divorced, needed to move into smaller apartments. So they had a clear picture of the people they were targeting. They thought it would be zero risk, that they would sell easily. But it so happened that they were not selling. And so they go back to find out, why are you not buying my products? Right? What is it that I'm doing wrong? And they realized that for someone who's retired and has a big house, maybe had many children in the house, the person had a big dining table, right? Big dining space. Now moving to their small condo, the dining space was not sufficient. That people would literally come in, look at the dining space and think, oh, my dining table can't fit in here. I would walk away. Once they realized the problem, they actually realized that they were not just selling houses, they were helping people move lives, right? Once they got the problem they were solving, they added storage services to their offerings. So if you had all that furniture, they would say, don't worry, we can store it up for you. You don't need to take everything to the new house because it looks smaller, right? They expanded the size of their dining room so that no matter how big your table was, if you had some comfort that you could fit in, you would pay for it. I think they did one more thing. They provided moving services because they realized that they were moving lives, not just selling houses. By the time they implemented all of these three things, sales skyrocketed literally through the roof. That it was so good that they were able to increase prices in a period that most people were not even selling at all, right? So you can see how if you just follow this basic framework around describing the problem you're solving, I like to just interject that understand the value of the pie also, so you understand what can come to you if you decipher the problem correctly. If you understand the experiences that you need to provide to get the job done, it helps you also understand how you need to organize yourself internally and how to sell yourself so that when people have that problem, they think about you. So to conclude, and I'm looking forward to your questions, how you zero in on these opportunities or this problem statements is just look around you, right? Creativity, pivoting, innovation, it comes from basic problems all around you. Anyway, examples will come up. I'm trying to keep to time. Look for areas of non-consumption. Look for situations where people are walking around a certain thing, right? That means that you could come up with an easier way for them to do things. Look for jobs or things that people are avoiding. Then for even existing things, look for new ways to use them. So for me, these are basic, simple ways that you can develop the right strategy for your business, that you can pivot when there are changes in opportunities or changes within your market space, and also innovate. Thank you very much. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Ndifreke, for the excellent presentation. So now we have a detailed understanding of identifying business strategies, what to look for, understanding your customer base, and ways of trying to address and meet their needs. So this topic talks about, or this discussion talks about how we can use technology. So now that we have some strategies in mind, how do we use technology to address this? To help us understand and explore these questions a little bit further is our second speaker, Ehis Sidiake. So he's trained as an engineer, but is now a digital business transformation subject matter expert. Ehis.
Thank you. You need to stop sharing so I can share my screen.
Oh yeah. Stop. Yeah.
Thank you. Please let me know when you can see my screen.
We can see your screen now. We can see your screen now, Ehis.
Okay. Thanks, Chico, for the introduction. Just a brief summary about myself. Thank you. Okay. I was going to give a brief introduction about myself. I started my career as an engineer, as Chico said, and previously, from an engineer, I moved into project management. From there, I moved into digital transformation, and I've done a lot of digital transformation projects. So I feel I'm in a good position to kind of explain my experience about this industry and this growing trend in the digital world, and kind of bring the realization of what Indy was talking about into light in terms of from a technology perspective. So I'll start with taking us back in time. I'm sure a lot of us growing up, we knew about Kodak. They were into the waves and took pictures, and those films were made by Kodak. But today, Kodak is a very small company. They're not even a player. Why? Because of the digital cameras. Everyone has a smartphone now, can take pictures. You don't need to buy films anymore. The same thing with Fuji films. Where are they today? They are making aging products because they have been pushed out of that camera market. We look at blockbusters today as well. Growing up, I used to go to Video Mart in Falmouth to rent movies. You know, in the UK here, we had blockbusters. But today, what do? We all watch Netflix. That's where we get our content from. The same with taxis. Before, you would go to the street, raise up your hands, call a taxi. Now you can do it in the comfort of your home. You have Uber. BlackBerry, everyone used to move from the hard keyboard on the phone, right? And companies like Apple, Google that were putting touch keyboards, advancing their smartphones, have taken over the market, and BlackBerry are nowhere today. So history tells us that we have to move with technology. We have to keep up with the time, unless we'll be left behind. The global pandemic has also changed and pushed us to even embrace technology more. As Chico alluded to, we're seeing changes in behavior as a result of the pandemic. We're all in lockdown recently. And as a result of that, our behaviors are beginning to change. And it's going to be very difficult for us to go back to how it was. What does that mean? It means as companies, as organizations, we have to start paying attention to the changes in how we connect to our customers, in how we deliver value to our customers. That is very important. We need to start paying more attention to the competition. What are they doing, right? How do we react quickly to what our competitors do in the market? And we also have to pay close attention to data. Data has never been more important. It enables us to understand and have clear pictures of what people are doing, what our customers are doing, and what they demand. So to make sense of it from an economics perspective, I just want to give you some insights into how this digital disruption is working. So in economics, we know we have demand, we have supply. That's very obvious. We want something, there's someone that comes in and gives it to us. But what digital technology does, first of all, it kind of distorts this demand. What do I mean by that? So growing up, again, I like to go back to the past because that kind of gives us an idea of how far we've come today. I would go to the street and I would buy a newspaper for my dad. That newspaper, I personally was only interested in one section, the sports section at the back. But you had this whole newspaper you had to buy, right? So for someone like me that was a kid, I couldn't afford the paper. But my dad had to spend that money so I could buy a newspaper and just read that section. My sister was interested in the fashion section of the newspaper, right? But you had to buy one paper. It made economic sense back in the day, in the 90s, early 20s. But today, that's changed. I can go and just buy a sports paper if I wanted to. I can go to the internet and look at sports. It's come to me directly, right? So they've created that specific demand to meet the needs of the customer. Again, new markets. Now, imagine back in the day, musicians, you had to go to the studio, record an album, go to radio waves, try and get people to play your music. Now, everyone can be a wannabe musician if you wanted to. You can release content on YouTube. It's very easy. You can establish your brand without going through the major music bigwigs in the organization to get yourself noticed and to build a brand. Again, we can also look at unconstraining supply. So what does that mean now? We are seeing situations whereby with demand, we're seeing new players come into the market to help with the supply. Look at Airbnb, for example. Anyone with a spare room can be a hotel. Pretty much, you just need to put your room on Airbnb, and automatically you've created additional accommodation in the market, right? The same again can also apply with YouTube. You can create content on YouTube, right? We're all suppliers of content in this new world. Then we go to reimagine your business. So now you are seeing people change how their businesses operate. So for example, if you wanted to top up your phone, you would go and buy a card, right? You buy a top-up card, you enter the digits. Now you can do that on your mobile phone without going outside of your house, right? You can go online and you can order products without going to the store. And this is as a result of businesses thinking about the needs of the customer and actually adapting their businesses to meet that. Then we have new value proposition. You are seeing people coming out with new products to keep up the attention of the customers, because the customers, we want so many things, we want so many new things. So people are coming up with new products on a daily basis, new services, right? We have things like Spotify, we have SoundCloud. In this current market right now, for example, Google has built up their video platform to compete with Zoom because everyone wants to keep in touch and everyone wants to keep in touch with mobile phones. So you can see new products are coming up. You can't just be a company making one product now. You have to think about new value propositions on a regular basis. How can I deliver value constantly? Then last but not the least, hyperscaling. You're seeing people use technologies kind of like take their businesses to the next level. What do I mean by that? You're seeing companies that went previously in the technology space embracing technology because one, they either want to reduce costs, they either want to scale their business, right? Or they either want to reach out to new customers. And I'll explain a bit more about the hyperscaling as I go along with the presentation. Today, technology is not what defines a business or differentiates a business. It's what enables businesses. It's what helps businesses stay relevant, grow, meet the needs of their customers. Look at COVID times, for example. Zoom has enabled all of us to keep in touch. A lot of meetings we have are through Zoom, right? Big e-commerce players like Konga, Jumia have continued to sell their products because they don't have a physical marketplace. You can go online and you can order your products. So even when everyone was on lockdown, businesses like this continue to operate. A big example that I would give as well is Disney. So everyone knows Disney as a theme park, right? So during the COVID period, they lost 90% of their revenue because theme parks were closed. However, they launched Disney Plus. And in a few months, they've grossed over $1 billion in revenue because they went online and were releasing content online. So that shows you the relevance of how technology can help businesses continue to stay afloat. And in the future, you're going to see more people shift towards using technology to help their businesses sustain themselves. Now, how do we adopt a digital transformation in Nigeria? I want to be specific about Nigeria because I feel this applies to other countries elsewhere, but specifically to Nigeria. We have to begin to understand the challenges. What do I mean by this? Indeed, I alluded to this before about problems. We need to understand what the problems are. What are the challenges our customers face today in terms of, for example, we can see a change in behavior with us as a result of staying at home. So right now, I feel comfortable being in my house. But at the same time, I want to have everything outside at home. I want to be able to watch any content I want at home. I want to be able to order food and get it at home. I want to be able to educate myself at home. So that means a business has to start thinking about my needs moving forward in this COVID time and as we go out of COVID as well, right? We need to also start listening at our objectives. So what do we want to achieve as a business, for example? Do I want to grow? Do I want to make more profit? Do I want to tap into more markets, right? Do I want to make my business, do I want to earn more trust, right? Then we now need to form a digital strategy around how do we meet those objectives. And I'll go into how some of the ways technology can help us achieve some of those objectives. Then finally, we need to execute, right? And execution has to do a lot with people. We need, as Indy said, capability is critical. We need people, right? Transformation happens because of people. Because you have people that have problems and you have people that can deliver the solutions to meet those problems. Nigeria, in my opinion, Nigeria presents an opportunity for business transformation because one, we have a lot of legacy infrastructure, and two, there are a lot of untapped areas that we haven't actually developed technology businesses. So we're building from the start. And that means that gives us an opportunity to put the groundwork and also realize huge gains in this space. What do I mean by that? With COVID, for example, it's going to force businesses and governments to adapt. The government, on one hand, needs to find a way to, one, help the economy continue to grow by putting the relevant infrastructure needed for us as a population to advance ourselves. Businesses have to look at ways to actually tap into this new environment that we're facing. How do we grow our customers? How do we meet the needs of people that are staying at home? For example, my friend Chico and I were talking about education. A lot of students are at home today. as an educator, how do I get my message across to students? You can start thinking about that from a perspective of using streaming platforms, packaging your message and getting across to multiple places. There's also an opportunity to build the skill gap with technology. So for example, people like us can start building our knowledges in cloud, in robotics, in AI, because there's an opportunity to use this technology to actually advance businesses. That means people like us can actually employment. We can tap into employment. We can tap into helping our organization to scale and to grow. Then there's the digital dividends. By us establishing these businesses, the gains are humongous. When you look at e-commerce, for example, human beings moving forward, that is going to be our direct way of shopping. That's the reality. Consuming content online is going to be the norm moving forward. So there are lots of gains for people that enter into this space and operate into this space. Then we have the trust deficit. So for example, there's still this lack of trust with transactions in Nigeria. And I think that's a result of the underlying technology that supports these transactions. So this is an opportunity for us to build that trust with how the banks interact with small businesses and how the businesses interact with the customers. So here is the map of what I think a digital Africa and digital Nigeria looks like. We have, for example, digital trade, where we look at how we can improve transactions within banking, within direct to customer services. We have digital governance. How do we make sure that the government is secure in their dealings, that the regulations are in place? We have digital education. How do we educate people regardless of where they are, getting the knowledge and the skills they need to elevate along the career ladder? We have digital health. How do we look at healthcare, remote consultations? We don't need to actually be in the hospital moving forward. We can get a lot of the remote healthcare at home. We can speak to a consultant wherever we are, or health kits, self-help kit. You can test yourself at home. So you can see these opportunities, even in agriculture, for example. In Kenya, recently during COVID, we had a situation whereby the farmers weren't able to buy crops because they were unable to leave their farms or the regions where they are, and they had to go online, right? And you start seeing people creating e-commerce sites to sell fertilizers, to sell seeds. So in that situation, you have farmers, the demands of the farmers are being met, and at the same time, the sellers are also making revenue in this period. Now, I want to take us finally to what I consider the emerging technologies that enable us to tackle these problems. And I'm going to highlight a few of them because I think I have experience in some of these areas, and I feel these are key areas that can help us to shift our mindset towards looking at how we can tackle some of the problems we experience in Nigeria. When we look at things like profitability and scalability, for example, you see a lot of businesses shifting into the cloud. Why do they do this? They do this because, one, it enables you to scale, and it reduces your operational costs, and it creates high availability. So what does that mean? You have a workforce that is very productive because they can work anywhere, anytime. You reduce your costs because you don't need to spend a lot of maintenance having physical infrastructure moving forward because you've offset that cost. Then we have 5G technology, for example. This is connectivity. We already have 4G and 3G in Nigeria, but even faster connectivity means that we can do millions of transactions at the same time. So this automatically creates even more opportunity for e-commerce businesses to actually grow and have more outreach to their customers. We have cybersecurity. A big thing about transaction is security. Do we feel secure when we are entering our payment details, when we are making transactions? Cybersecurity enables us to actually build that trust deficit, reduce it. And finally, we have blockchain as well that also helps with securing our transactions. You're seeing a lot of businesses adopt blockchain technology, which means you have a highly secure way of transacting between buyers and sellers, and also having a way to also track those transactions. So imagine the opportunities in supply chains. So moving forward, if you were a businessman and you were transporting your goods from Enugu to Lagos, you could actually monitor and see the various places your goods have been. if you're someone, a foodie, for example, like Indy, that cares about what goes into her body, you can have situations where you can actually track your food, your beef, where does it come from? The vegetables you eat, where do they come from? And these are the opportunities that technology begins to solve in all the different areas of businesses. So before I'll close this up by saying this. Once new technology comes, right, it's going to stimulate you. You can either be on the train or you can be the road. The choice is up to you to embrace technology and use this moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Yis, for your excellent presentation. We'll now go through to the question and answer sections. So please remember to send your questions in the chat box feature in Zoom to the host, and we'll be calling you on a first come, first served basis to ask your question. So we have a few questions already. We'll go with the first one, which is from Ifekandu Nole, aka Pablo. Pablo.
Okay, thank you very much, moderator. Thank you, His and Ndi. My question actually goes to Ndi. I would just love to know what kind of strategy, pivoting strategy this time, that you recommend for a company whose major customers or clients were directly hit by the lockdown. For example, we run a hotel management software and we sell to hotels, right? And as we speak, hotels are relatively closed down. The ones that are not closed down are not having businesses. So as far as identifying our customers and them knowing why they buy our product, those ones we are certain about that. However, we're having issues with how do we move on from here?
Host, I think we need to unmute Indy.
Okay. Sorry. So Indy, you heard me right?
Yes. So you talked about providing software to hotels, right?
Correct.
And the hotels who are your customers are now affected.
Correct.
Yes. So to be honest with you, you have to use, and that's why I went with a framework, right? Even the hotel, you, the software provider, you have to use that framework that says, what problem are you solving, right? Remember that when you're pivoting doesn't always require you changing the entire company. It may require you finding a new set of customers. It may require you finding a new revenue model, right? And it may also require you using technology to do things differently or to cut cost. So based on certain competencies you have within your business, right? So if I'm looking at you, for example, based on certain competencies or capabilities that you have around software, maybe development, you may need to shift to another business that requires that today. So because hotels are shut down, you find that you can't sell your software to them, right? So I see you from.
Correct. Yes, correct. We are no more able to sell as much as we used to. And the ones that are currently using it, unfortunately, are finding it difficult to keep up with payments. Yes.
Yes. So because you have certain competencies, right, you need to go back, understand where there's a problem within the market, look at the competencies that you have and find a new set of customers that will require that. That's one angle of looking at it. So I can't answer your question the way you've thrown it to me because I don't know the entirety of your business and what you have. But what I can say to you, there are certain competencies or capabilities that you already have that is serving this customer segment that may not need it as before. But there are some businesses that are thriving in this COVID-19 that may actually desire something digital. You need to find those businesses and transfer your capabilities or competencies so that it allows you find a new customer segment or change what you're delivering to these existing customers so that you find a new revenue line. So it requires an internal assessment. One, it also requires another look at your market. So when I say things like you have to understand the world around you, remember that the whole idea of doing that is to identify where opportunities are, aside from where the risks are. There are so many businesses that are thriving today in COVID-19. You may now need to take all of those strengths, all of those capabilities your business has, and find these other markets. So it's actually an intensive exercise that requires an assessment of you as the business, and requires an assessment of your current environment, how the opportunities have changed, and see if you can match both. There are certain competencies you already have that would be relevant to those opportunities. There are others that you can easily build based on what you already have. So those are things you will need to match with how the opportunities have changed within your markets. I hope I'm at least sharing.
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I saw it easy. So you may want to say something.
Oh no, yeah. So I just wanted to follow up on what you said. I think she said doing an internal assessment, but also you also need to do an external assessment. So that means looking at your customer and what their challenges are, right? So in the hotel space, for example, if your customers are having challenges, if you understand what their challenges are, maybe you might begin to look at features you can add to get some more value for them that in turn benefit you, right? So for example, I would say in this COVID times, Nike, for example, where they sell trainers, right? That's their bread and butter, selling sports gear, but no one's going out to buy anything. So what do, right? They start looking at, okay, how can we reach people at home? And they launched what's called the Nike Run Club. So I'm trying to say that if you look at the market and look at what's going on, the challenges for your customer, you might begin to identify features that you can actually give them that actually enables them to make money, and that in turn makes you make money as an indirect way of finding opportunities.
Yeah.
So I can also add to that as well. So you already have the software which is designed for a primary purpose. So looking at other industries, so like for instance, the automobile industry here, that was shut because of all the workers had to go home. What they did to help with ventilators when there was a shortage was change some of their manufacturing processes to start manufacturing ventilators and other services they could supply to support the fight against COVID. So they didn't have to change their factory line that much, but they just made 1 or 2 tweaks to solve a particular problem that was present at the time. So it's something along those lines. So similar to what India and Ais have said, identify what problem you're looking to solve, and then it may well just be a case of making 1 or 2 tweaks to address it. Okay. I hope you're satisfied with that, Pablo. So our next question is from Jidofo Agbo. Host, please unmute Jidofo.
Okay, hi everybody. Thanks for the wonderful presentations. Really insightful. Okay, my first question, although I have another one, but I'm sure the second one will have to wait for it. But my first question is to Ndi. I think it's still on scalability, but I also understand the insights, the answers to those questions. But my own question is, when you are pivoting or even when you are doing startups, do you have any strategy that you use to measure scalability? So you can have a new idea, you think it's a new opportunity, but how do you measure if in the long term or in future, you can be able to scale that business? Let's say when you're looking for funding, one of the key things they look at, immediately you give them an idea, is how scalable is this business? Is this something that if I put in some thousands or millions, we can scale, or is this something for low scale? Is there any strategy you use to measure scalability? That's my question. I don't know if you have one. But then, before you answer, please, just to add to what you guys said on, if I can do this question. You know, one thing I've learned from this COVID also is that when we are doing business, we always have exit plans and diversification. So once you have all those things in place, moving out from if your business is affected, you already have a contingent plan to do anything. So I think that's what a lot of people are going to learn from this COVID as well. Well, thank you. That's my question, though. How do you have any strategy for measuring scalability? Thank you.
Host Andy is on mute, please. Just bear with us as we unmute the presenters. You'll be unmuted shortly. Please bear with us. Okay.
Should I just go first while they wait for Andy on this one, on strategies?
Yeah, yes, please. Like Andy is still muted, so please go.
Okay. All right. So thanks for the question. I would say when it comes to looking at scalability, when you start usually with your business, you kind of do what's called the customer segmentation to kind of have an understanding of how big is your market size. And that gives you an idea of, in the long run, how much revenue can you actually get if you actually reach your market size. But at the same time, you have to also remember that life isn't fixed. Things change constantly, right? The pace of technology, the pace of how the world operates today is very rapid. That means you have to constantly be on top of your business so that you see what the challenges are and you quickly pivot. So it's not good enough to just have a business idea and think, okay, when I started my business now, I foresaw I was going to have 1 million customers, and think 2 years down the line, that's going to be the same, right? Because if you look at certain businesses that started back in the day, I'm sure they had that same vision of, we will still be here today, right? In terms of, you look at Kodak, I'm sure when they were making films back in the day, they still thought people will be buying films to take photos. But that's not the case now. No one thought a mobile phone will come here and that will be how we will take pictures. So yes, you have to think about how big the market size is before you go into a business. If you think you can only get 1,000 customers, then you know that that's going to be the size of your market. But if you also think you can get 1 million customers, you have to pay attention to what is going on in the market. What are your competitors doing? Not just even your competitors, what's happening outside your industry? Because you are seeing companies show that they don't just operate in their industry anymore. A company like Google now, you don't know what they do. So many things. They are across multiple industries, right? So they can come into your industry even though they were not in your sector at that moment in time. So my advice and recommendation is try as much as possible to have an idea of what your potential market is. And even when you do, continue to keep track of what's going on in your industry and outside your industry in general.
Okay. Thank you, Ehi. So I totally agree with you. You really have to do the work to understand how big that value pie is. So for me, your question is almost twofold. I honestly don't like your question because on one end, it seems big. How do you ensure scalability of an idea? So first of all, you need to do the homework to understand how big the idea can be. the people you can reach, as he said. And then two, the next question is, how do you reach those people? And to be honest, that's where technology comes in. So there's some things that he was saying when he was presenting. He talks about putting things in the cloud so that you can scale quickly. For technical businesses like my business, they will talk about converting your products and services into APIs. Yeah. Chikone, maybe you can help with that, so that you create it in such a way that it's not just your direct customers that can use it. Anybody that wants to use it will find it easy to use it. So technology is a very, very good driver for helping you scale, because it can help you reach multiple people, right? But you need to do the work to understand that potential market, that reach. All right, I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, so just to add to that, you mentioned APIs. There's also another thing, which is regulation as well. So regulation could come in, which could change the way the market works. So one of the modern things that's happened recently in the banking world is to do with like open banking, which is effectively like an API that allows third-party small businesses to now develop banking applications to interface with the existing banking infrastructure. So the banking sector is always reluctant to change. So they're generally kind of slow in moving with the times, just for obvious reasons, because the existing model works for them. So they're very slow to adopt new technologies. But a lot of regulation has forced their hands. So now you can be a developer of a web app and you can interface with banks directly. One of the examples is an exchange, foreign exchange portal. So you can write a foreign exchange portal, changing from dollar, pounds to naira. And because you have access to the banking API, you can directly send the money to people's bank accounts in Nigeria or any other part of the world. So that's one of the advantages of sort of like new regulation, new direction in technology. So it's very difficult to calculate how much you can scale at the very beginning. So I think the key is staying agile and staying aware of what is out in the market, and then reacting as quickly as possible before the competitors to that change. I don't know if that answers your question, Jidofo. Okay, I think Jidofo is on mute. But we have our next question from Quest. Host, please unmute Quest.
Host. Okay, good evening, everybody. Hope you all can hear me.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Yes.
All right, good. Thanks, indeed. Thanks, Ahis, for the presentation. Very, very insightful. So, I have a question for you. Then I also have one for Ahis, and they're both related, really. So maybe both of you can take it at a go. So, okay. So my question for you is, so I hope you have a good answer for me, because I heard you say you have to do the work. But what's really a low cost way to get credible market information in Nigeria? Because you want to start a business in Nigeria, and the first thing you think about is, okay, I need to know what the potential size of the market is. Then you discover that you have to do the digging, you have to do the groundwork. I mean, there's no quick place you can just go to and get credible market information. But I know there are pockets of, like, outside the country, I mean, there are industry sources that keep this kind of information. So from your experience working in Nigeria, are there places like that where one can get credible market information on agriculture, for instance, or on certain commodities? Then the second question, I had it for Ahis, but maybe you could also help with that. So what digital opportunities, so Ahis is actually for you. What digital opportunities do you see in a very traditional Nigerian business like trading? So when I mean traditional, I mean like trading in food commodities, like rice, like beans, like Gary. I mean, are there really any digital opportunities in that space? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi. So in Nigeria, data is a major problem, right? So a lot of the consulting firms, this is where they make money. because they create their data. And so there are two primary sources of data. There are two sources of data. It's either you go the primary data approach or you go the secondary data approach. So primary data means you have to get the data yourself. And it means that you have to go out, you pound the pavement, you hire people to do the work to get the data. So for example, if you look at the agri space, right? If there's something you're interested in, follow the story and try to map it. You may need to understand what is that thing you're trying to find out. Maybe you want to check out the yam, the size of the, maybe let me say the corn or the yam markets. You could identify all the big markets in Lagos, because the truth is a lot of the goods come from down south or up north. They come towards the center, the big markets, Lagos, Abuja. You can identify those big markets, for example, right? Sit in it and for a month, track all the goods that come into those big markets. That's primary. It's very, very painful, but it gives you an estimate that you can now multiply it across, you play around with it. So there's a lot of assumptions and estimation, right, with primary data. Now, secondary, you can buy what is available. So the standard place to go to is you can get or buy what is available. So for free, National Bureau of Statistics. So they release a lot of information. I find that I go there every now and then to see what they have. They do their best to give you what they have. That's available for free. If you go to some of the ministries, if you go to CBN, Ministry of Finance, you may find something, but those are examples of free sources. Every other source, they've done their work, they sell it. So I use, there's BMI, Business Monitor International. I remember in consulting, we would use Euromonitor sometimes. So these are expert research firms that pay money to try and build this data to tell a story for you, for in some of the spaces. I'm sure they are smaller, specialized. So I know that once in a while, but I've told my team to go far and wide. They're talking to Augusto to see what those guys can offer us. For financial inclusion, we speak to EFINA. So there's certain sites that do the work, and they either make it available to you for free or you pay for it one way or the other. So those are the two ways you can get data. It's unfortunate in Nigeria, right? You can also look at some of the big players in that agri space, especially for those that are public companies. If they publish their information, you can pick pieces and pieces and try to paint a picture. So you find that there's a lot of estimation going on because we just don't have data in this space. That's how I work with data sometimes. So the best sensible way is to look for that value chain or that interaction you're interested in. Find a way to just track it, observe it, do some estimates, pay people like youth service corpers. You can say, go to all the major markets, see all the truckloads of things that are coming out, what is the size of it, and then build some sort of data that you can work with. It may not be reality, but it's an estimation that may be close to reality. Okay?
Yeah, like I can't really add to that. I as an engineer, I'm used to working in numbers in the past, but at the same time, if you can't get data, I think you can always do the comparable. You can always use the comparable method, which is what I use a lot of the time. So what you can do is you can either look at maybe similar countries to Nigeria that might have the same data because of our population size, the same region, the same types of crops, and just kind of make an estimation based on that. But overall, what Indide suggested is the number one way of actually doing that. In regards to what you talked about, opportunities in agriculture with food commodities, I think if you look at the world today, I think in that field, it's very obvious that e-commerce is a great opportunity. How do you sell your goods? How do you reach your customers? So in Kenya, for example, you're seeing a lot of farmers doing what is called direct to the customer. So they are bypassing the brokers and just going straight to the customer. So from the farm, people already pay for the products and you just go and deliver it straight to your customer. That could be a model that could be incorporated in Nigeria and incorporated very easily. And with technology can help you with tracking in terms of using blockchain, for example, if you wanted to. But just using the internet and setting up an e-commerce site, you can already start to sell your products or your commodities directly to your customers. So I think that is a huge opportunity for you if you are in that space.
So just to add to the question about tech and agriculture quest. So in Uganda, which, as Ayi said, is a comparable economy to Nigeria, during the COVID, when there was a lockdown, some of the market women, there was an app that was created, I can't remember the name, but I'll dig it up afterwards, that was created that allowed them to deliver. So people could request what they wanted, yam, cassava, and then that request was received on the app, and then they had specialized delivery services that could deliver the product directly to you. So it's similar, where we can see technology being used to address like a supply or demand issue. So I think the opportunity is there, and we can leverage it in different ways. Okay, so
sorry, Chico, just to go ahead. So also, when you think about just even change, is something that India has mentioned and I have mentioned in terms of change in behavior. You're seeing, if you look at our parents' generation compared to our generation, there's a difference in terms of how we even do our shopping. My mom is happy to go to the market and haggle. I don't have time for that, right? My wife doesn't have time for that. So moving forward, you have to look at ways to make it convenient for your customers. And if that means, like Chico said, having an app that people can buy, you can bring it directly to their house, that's added value for them. And that is where the opportunity lies, the added value. And that is also revenue for yourself as well. So you have to always look at these things as, how do they win and how do I win, right? It has to be a win-win scenario for both parties.
Thank you, Yes. Our next question is from Wiwa. Admin, please.
Hey, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, greetings everyone. So thanks a lot for the really awesome presentation. So my question is around manufacturing in Nigeria. So regarding the current pandemic and the effect it's had on the distribution and person-to-person marketing, what sort of strategy would you recommend that one can leverage from both a digital standpoint and operational adjustment to kind of to sort of navigate to get a better outcome? Because sales has been impacted significantly. Distribution networks have significantly been slowed down. So do you have any thoughts around that, or any recommendations that one could possibly lean on?
Okay, so I don't know if I have sufficient information to work with, but I'll just work with what you have. So you have manufacturing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you're talking about person-to-person marketing.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So you're saying because you can't interact with people to sell, how else can you interact with people to push your products?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm working with the assumption that that product is solving certain problems for people and they still need the product. So you want to push it in their face. I would say use other channels available, right? So today, digital marketing works a lot. So I actually respond, and I'll use myself as an example. I respond to marketing on Instagram that is targeted at me. So Instagram checks my pattern and knows my interest and pushes certain things my way. I actually respond to it. I respond to adverts targeted at me on YouTube. Those are channels I use a lot. Facebook, maybe I'm not on Facebook as much. It works. Now I've responded to, those bulk text messages that they send to people. There's someone I found in Abuja. I got several of the person's marketing text messages. Finally, I was like, enough. And I went to the person's place to say, what is it? And we had such good interaction. It worked,
Yeah.
So explore all of those channels. Sometimes an understanding of the target customer also helps you. If your target customers are young people, then urban areas, that means they're online a lot. So that may be a preferred channel. Do you get? So you can take all of that information and see what is available and use that to reach those people, because those are cheaper channels. I think that marketing is shifting significantly from the traditional channels of TV, of radio, of billboards, right, to more digital channels. It's a lot cheaper and sometimes it's actually effective. Like I said earlier, I respond to adverts targeted at me on Instagram, on YouTube.
So one context I forgot to mention was the bulk of our customers are mainly people that don't have access to Instagram, or data is the least of their concerns. So I mean, we do have the digital marketing, but we're not able to penetrate so the market area is more around the Agege and some of the if I permit me to use the word, lower income areas. So
okay. What about text messaging?
We haven't tried that. Yeah.
So I've responded to text messages and I give an example directed at me. So you could try that. And I think if you understand other interactions of those people. Now, I know that in Lagos, for example, the lockdown is not as severe in certain areas as other areas, meaning within communities, there are interactions. So if you notice the point of interactions or the pattern of those customers, you can work with that.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
for example, in where I'm located in Lagos, all the supermarkets, I noticed that certain people are advertising with banners in front of those grocery stores and supermarkets. I've seen a real estate company put its poster in front of the grocery store that is down my street. And I honestly looked at it. I was like, where is the location of this place? Let me see whether it's interesting. So those are different ways you can use to engage your customers.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Indy. So we'll take the next question. Go on,
I thought I wanted to say something.
Was it the same question, right?
Go on.
Okay, yeah, just to add, right, sometimes when we talk about digital transformation, it doesn't just have to be technology, right? It's also about just keeping pace with what's going on. So like Indy said, right, your customers, for example, they might not have mobile smartphones. It doesn't mean they can't be accessible. You just need to find out, how do I reach this particular set of individuals? Like she said, it could be billboards, it could be text messages, it could be putting a man standing there holding a banner. But also another thing I would like to include is just looking at the manufacturing angle. So let's take a step back and just look at what you're doing within your manufacturing. Are you automating? Are you looking at efficiencies within your processes? Because that's also digital transformation. How are we getting our staff skilled in different areas so that we can pivot our business if we have to, or add new products? So those are other ways you can look at to kind of moving forward in the COVID situation. Transform your business as well, So you can look at the operational efficiency side of things. What are we doing? What are our processes like? Are they efficient? Can we make them more efficient? That's another area that could also help.
Yeah.
Thank you, Yes. Thank you, Indy. Our next question is from Chisom. Host.
Hi.
Hi, Indy. How are you?
I'm fine.
All right, well done. Fantastic presentations from the two of you. Hi, Elise as well. So I'm going to try and lump my questions to the two of you. So first up, Indy. So now it's very easy to talk about strategy and doing all these things and answering all these questions. For the average Nigerian or the average human being, it is very difficult to answer all these questions. So for people who can't answer the questions on their own, the simple questions for a basic business, let's say a bakery to make bread, right? For people who can't answer those basic questions and can't afford to pay for professionals to help them with those kinds of research, what do you propose they should do to still be able to build a successful business, no matter how small the scale is? And then when we talk about technology that can, and now I'm going to focus because I already said technology don't necessarily was the word you used, you know, that the person has.
You broke up a bit there, Chisom.
What we have now, where every. Okay, I'm saying, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Is it better?
Yes, we can hear you.
So I'm saying based on what we have now, where the trend is moving, where everybody's going mobile, for a small business now, it's a business that is not very sophisticated. Like, again, let's say a bakery that focuses just on bread. What kind of technology can they employ to be able to push their business and become successful?
Okay. So let me go first. So I like to simplify strategy. That's why I use those three questions of where do you play, what play option do you have, you know, what competencies do you need. Now, for a very, very, very small business, I'll keep it as simple as who, what, where, how. So who still boils down to who is that target person that you're selling to, you know? Is it the mother in the house? Or is it the father in the house? Or is it those small children that are in the house? So the who is important. What are you selling? So for that simple bread maker, it's very clear. Bread. That's what I'm selling, right? Where are you the local baker? Or are you the, for lack of a better word, regional or community bakers that goes beyond several streets? So if you go beyond several streets, maybe you won't just bake the bread, you will get hawkers to carry the bread to the other streets. Or you go to all the local shops to say, I want to supply you, it's hot and fresh, you know. So the where matters, the who matters, right? And then the how. So I think I've incorporated the how in the where too. So if the where is multiple streets, the how can be, can I use hawkers? Can I use all the local shops? Or will I just drive my van to each of those streets at certain hours and just sell to them? So for a very small business, I will still go with the who, the what, the how, the where, right? I almost want to delve into Ispas, but I'll leave him to answer it.
Thanks, Indy. If not, I wouldn't have anything to say. You've already covered most of it. What I would say is this. Like I said, you don't always need to use technology. Technology can help you, but sometimes there are ways you can keep things very simple. So let's go to the baker, for example. What are the trends that are happening today? A lot of people want to get healthy. A lot of people are interested in healthy eating and all of that, right? If you're a baker, how do I make my bread more healthy and more tasty? That's transformation. Automatically, you are now a baker in a health space, right? Are you seeing how you can pivot your business, right? So you're still making bread, but you're making a different type of bread, and you probably be targeting a different type of customer, right? So that's with understanding your customer. Another way could be there are certain things that also you can also do, like in terms of marketing. How do I reach people? You have things like Instagram, it's free. You have things like Facebook, it's free, right? That gives you the opportunity to reach audiences that you probably would not have reached as well, right? And so when you look at the part that Indy has said in terms of the strategy about how do you position yourself in your location, geographically, things like that, you take that into consideration. but you also look at your customers, look at what's going on, look at what's going on in your area, and try to make sure your business is keeping pace, right? So even if another baker comes into your street, you look at what they are doing. If they're making a type of bread, you can make something different, and automatically 2 of you are now operating in different spaces as well. You can have, and so that would be.
Okay. I'll just add one thing to that, Chisom. So also, it's finding ways to collaborate with others. So like a bakery, for instance, if you can identify supermarkets or popular locations where people go to buy stuff, you can look to explore striking a deal where you can have your product on a shelf within that popular location. So, and then they get a commission or something of that nature. So in a way, you're still selling your product, but you're leveraging the popularity of this location to advertise and market your product. So it's just finding innovative ways of getting your product out there. So it's not limited to high-tech companies. It goes all the way down to the simplest business. Okay. I hope that's answered the question. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chisom. So the next question is from Dr. Dia. Admin, please.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, dear.
Indeed, it was a fantastic. Well, I felt like I was an MBA online class because when I was hearing strategy, supply and demand chain, all those things are strange to me. I only know milligram and mils. So, Indeed, I'm actually angry with you because the reason why we're actually here is because COVID-19 is a healthcare issue. And we are now using laundromat and construction company as an example. So I'll be very quick. For those who were actually affected by the COVID-19, we know that it's very, very difficult for people to access healthcare or hospitals now. And there are a lot of people that are doing telemedicine stuff, people are doing digital stuff with healthcare. But I think a few weeks down the line now, I've had a lot of people complain about a lot of doctors making or misdiagnosing them based on, well, maybe they gave they complained differently, or the way the patient or the way the doctor assessed the patient was different. So the diagnosis was wrong. The person had to spend extra money, had to spend extra time. So my question is, I personally, because I'm trying to deploy a telemedicine app that contains everything, yeah? I'm looking for a way or a strategy, a proper strategy that will work in Nigeria. The reason why I'm saying that is, I know that a lot of people are, a lot of countries in the UK and the US, most of the big hospitals have deployed telemedicine apps and telemedicine. Even the people, instead of coming in, you just go to your phone or go to your laptop and complain, fill a form, and they tell you what is wrong, tell you what to take. It's even easier because they will ask you some questions, send someone to draw your blood. When the result comes out, it comes to you, it goes to them. They now send your medications to you. So you practically don't need to do anything. But here in Nigeria, sorry to say, there's some doctors that even see the patient face to face. They examine the patient, take a history, draw blood, and they still make a wrong diagnosis. Talk less of doing consultations over the phone or doing over. You cannot deliver a pregnant woman over the phone now, can you?
No.
You cannot. That is one. Two, I'm looking for helpful strategies, not only for healthcare givers or physicians, but for people also, as in customers, clients, patients, how they can access healthcare, proper healthcare in this pandemic. And I'll allow 3 of you to go differently. I don't expect you guys.
So Dia, please just summarize. So the first what's the actual question, please?
Okay, the question is strategies for physicians from the business angle, how they can reach out to patients and how they need to do whatever it is they need to do, and strategies for how it's going to be effective healthcare gotten from the healthcare giver by the patient. I hope my question is not confusing you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So healthcare. This is one that's very close to me. One, my mom's a doctor. My wife's a doctor, and in this COVID times, I think I'm almost a doctor myself now because I've had to learn and get a lot of insights into healthcare. One thing I would say is, in the UK, for example, with healthcare, especially telehealthcare, they look at it from a two-way perspective. Like I said previously, what's the win-win? The win-win is a patient gets good healthcare and the doctor gets a very good rating and recommendation. So for example, in the UK with surgeries, you can rate surgeries. So if you go to a surgery, so if I want to sign up now for a GP, I look at the ratings. I look at, okay, who is close by that has a good rating, look at the feedback, and based on that, I say, I want to go with this physician. So when I tie that back to Nigeria, we too can begin to have that assessment of performance. What I mean by that is you have your platform or your tele platform where you give the patient the opportunity to give feedback anonymously. It has to be anonymized. The reason for that is people can be more honest and give very, very good feedback. What that also does, one is as a physician, if you get good ratings, you get to show that to people that you're doing a great job. But two, there's another opportunity with data, because what happens is you begin to aggregate so much data from your patients, patient types, patient information, and that data becomes a gold mine for you because there's so many things you can do with data. One, you can actually get insights into the customer. You can sell data to farmers who want to have an idea of, okay, how many patients with this type of blood type reside in this area or in this state or in this country, etc. That's opportunities for you in the digital space. So that is the kind of approach and advice I would give you in terms of thinking about it. One, looking at how you can get feedback, because that's a problem. So the problem is, how do I get feedback so we can track who are the good doctors? And two, how can I aggregate data and monetize that data? So those are things I would advise you in your own space in the healthcare industry.
Okay. So for Ololade, I think you need to narrow down on who you're targeting, right? If you're targeting people in high-end neighborhoods, then
Premium.
Sorry?
Premium.
Yeah. Then you. So for me, the only challenge I see is for a typical doctor, you need some sort of diagnosis to help you deal with the problem. So my personal understanding of telemedicine, and there's a site I've seen where the details are so good, they put pictures, right? And I think they upload certain videos to help you identify, and then the doctor can help you with to diagnose properly what the problem is. Another thing you mentioned, I don't know if it's you or somebody else mentioned, sending somebody to take the samples so that they can run better tests. The more information a doctor has, the more accurate the diagnosis. So just creating a channel to do that. And I mean, there are bikes around, right? So it's finding the type of people that can, it's just a pickup sample, right? So finding the kind of people that can pick up the sample, depending on what the sample is, urine or stool is easy, but taking blood, you need a specific type of person. So I think if you understand the experience, if you understand the problem, right, you can actually sit down and map it. It's unfortunately, it's doing the work. You can sit down, map it, then decide on the best way to deliver that good experience to the customer. It may be something like a visiting nurse a visiting nurse that is adequately kitted while the doctor is online, I think you have to walk through different scenarios depending on the kind of experience you want to deliver, depending on the cost, depending on the patient, and you can actually come up with something.
I have come up with something. I'm actually running. I'm running with something at the moment. Yeah, I just wanted to see if there's anything out of the box that I could.
Yeah.
I could.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing too. So Ayis and Andy have covered it nicely, but I just want to add one thing. So a lot of the time when we look at in terms of like the customer and the supplier of a product. So in this case, in the health instance, is the patient and the doctor. And when we now look at telemarketing or telemedicine in terms of like a remote doctor and a remote patient. So Andy touched on it, and just to expand on that. So there's the logistics of getting the test samples. So that's also an opportunity. So it's an opportunity in the market to be that company that can safely transport blood samples and other sort of like, so like, for instance, like organs, etc. So that's the opportunity where you're looking outside the box. Nobody provides this logistical service. So we can be that company that can guarantee that we can take a blood sample from point A and get it uncontaminated to point B. Obviously, we have loads of doctors that can provide the diagnosis and the treatments, and also the nurses as well. But there's that bit in the middle that is missing. It's that link that supports behind the scenes, that supports that whole telemarketing, sorry, I keep saying telemarketing, telemedicine structure. So thinking outside the box, it's the logistics behind it that is also an option to explore.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Okay, so we have, I think one of the last questions is from Quest again. So admin, please.
So Chicken, I've actually asked my 2 questions. And they
sorry,
well
sorry.
answered.
It came in different orders. Okay, so I think if no one has any other questions, then we would round up. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Andy Freke and Ayis for the excellent presentation. It was, very informative and learned a lot, and also enjoyed the interactive Q&A session. So there's a lot of work that goes into a session like this, and I would also like to thank Pablo and the rest of the assembly team behind the scenes, knitting everything together to make it work. So they've done a lot of hard work just to make it, as smooth as possible for us. And yes, it's been an awesome day. And we look forward to the next assembly shortly. It won't be as long as the gap between the 2nd and the 3rd edition. So we hope to have it sooner rather than later. And to help us with that, we would like suggestions from everyone with regards to what topics they would like to discuss and what they want to cover. So it's open to the floor, it's open to the house for people to bring up suggestions so we can look. We have a wide range of technicalities and specialities within the group. And, there's always something to learn. I've learned a lot of things today, and I'm sure, I'm looking forward to learning from other areas as well. So I would like to thank everyone for joining this session, and look forward to seeing you guys at the next one. So thanks a lot for your time, everyone. Assembly is over.